I think that a lot of other companies could learn a lot from the way that we handle the hurricane situation and just kind of natural disasters in general, really. But for us specifically, hurricanes. Can you talk through for the audience what that looks like?
We as a team, we have mastered this process, and we continue to improve it every year based on our new experiences. I remember, right after hurricane, I was traveling to the areas impacted by hurricane, and it was like so depressing, And I remember a meeting, that you held with the executive team. And in the middle of that, we also, as a company, obviously we have stores impacted. But you guys, all you were talking about how we can get the communities back up and running,
What is it that you enjoy the most or that you like the most about your job?
It's very gratifying, because what we're doing, what we're working on is creating the safest possible environment, for our employees, for our customers, We want to see our employees, our associates go home back to their families, the same way they came into work, unhurt, safe, and they really appreciate that. And that gratitude, I think that's the best part of the job,
Yeah.
When you see happy faces, working safely.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the most important thing we can do is keep our people safe. And
Yeah.
I mean, we can do that in times of natural disasters, but we can do that every day in the way that we go about our operations. And so, yeah, that's why your job is so critical. And I know that's why you're so passionate about your job. Again, your title is you're the VP of?
Risk management and business continuity.
Yeah, fantastic. And how long have you been doing that?
This is my 22nd year.
22nd year at Bealls. Yep. Awesome. And before Bealls, you were in the circus.
Yes. Yeah. I gotta say that safety and risk management, that's my second career, So I started when I came to the States, I ended up in Miami. That's where I had my friends, that's where I had my support system.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I got a call from my friend and he said, "Hey, you want to have fun for the weekend?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he said that Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus, was in Tampa, and they were putting a show together, and they had over 100 performers who didn't speak English. Mm-hmm. And they didn't need an interpreter who would help them to put together a video program for the tour. Mm-hmm. So I got to Tampa, I got into it, was very excited, and, the weekend turned into 10 years of the circus, yeah. It was a lot of fun. And made a lot of friendships, learned a lot of skills. And, I started as an interpreter, then I became assistant performance director. Then from there, progressed to a performance director, assistant general manager, and then ended up here in Bradenton because I was working for talent and production department, assisting VP of talent production, basically traveling around the world, scouting for talent and bringing new talent to America. So that was my circus experience.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I met my wife there, and that's how we settled here in Bradenton.
Nice. And you have. Well, before I get into that, so you, I guess, the risk from a circus standpoint has got to be pretty extreme.
It's huge, and that's where really, it's really ingrained. It's integral part of the job there in the circus. I was really amazed, by risk exposures that exist in the circus. Those daredevils, they risk their lives every day, 3 times on Saturday. It's just amazing,
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure that, all those circus acts, animals, thousands of audience members, you want to make sure that everything flows safely.
Yep.
So that's why, safety really became, my second nature, before I even joined Bealls.
Mm-hmm. You'd mentioned that you met your wife at the circus.
Yep.
And so you guys have 3 kids together, is that right?
Yep.
And so if you're comfortable mentioning, I think, do they all play hockey?
Yes, they do. It's also an interesting story, when we settled here in Bradenton, and they built the rink, I think it's 2000, by Ellington Outlet Malls, the hockey rink. Mm-hmm. And I got so excited because that is the only sport really that I knew, the only sport I played, growing up, and the sport I have so passionate about, So I took my kids there one by one, and all I wanted really, just have them, learn how to skate, and just play. Didn't, had any dreams about anything, And it's an interesting story. At the beginning, when I first walked into the rink, and I, was signing up my younger son for hockey program. So the hockey director, heard my accent, talking about stereotyping. He's like, "Okay, would you like to help me coach?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." He never asked me if I knew how to skate, how to play hockey.
If you've ever played,
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So that was
Can you
awesome.
spell hockey?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that was awesome. That turned into 15 years of me coaching and being around my kids, and
That's great.
they all learned to play hockey, and they all two of them, the older ones, they played hockey at the University of Michigan, and they continue playing now professionally. They just came back from Austria. They're playing in Australia, in Europe. And my younger one, he was committed to play in for Notre Dame, but the team that drafted him, Anaheim Ducks, they had different plans for him, so they asked him to take a different route. So he's now playing for their organization in AHL League in San Diego. So
Wow.
He's finishing his season. They didn't make playoffs, so he's coming home in a week or so. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Excited.
That's amazing. Amazing. To have three professional athletes playing the same sport. That's very rare.
Yeah, we never planned for that. As I said, all I wanted just them to learn how to, to play.
Yeah.
So,
really cool. Very, very neat.
Funny fact, so when I left the circus, the job market for me was wide open, right? So I did get a few offers from live entertainment touring companies, but it's not what I was looking for. I studied languages. I have a master's degree in education, and I did contemplate teaching. But then again, I learned so many new skill sets, and I said, okay, so the opportunity is wide open. I did apply for a variety of opportunities, and I got a call from Bealls Distribution Center, and I interviewed with Bill Simpson, and I started next Monday in production. And because the safety was so ingrained in me from the circus, so when I started in production, in my production area, I implemented right away, what I thought was like basic, safety practices, and it got everyone's attention. And little did I knew at the time, so because of the high incidence rate in our distribution center, so OSHA came to inspect our facility, and they found 8 serious hazard violations. And in the recommend corrective action recommended package, they include the recommendation to hire full-time safety professional. So a few weeks later, I received a call from Bill Simpson, and he again, he brought me to his office. He explained the whole story with OSHA, and he told me that he interviewed several candidates.
And Bill Simpson was the head of the distribution center of the logistics network at that point.
At the time, yep. And he said, hey, he interviewed several candidates, but he wanted to offer a job to me because he was impressed, with little things that, with the little time and so many things that I've done, safety related, without safety being even my primary responsibility. So I happily accepted the job, and that's where I started my second career in safety.
Nice. Okay, and that was what year? 2002 then?
That was 2002.
Yeah.
And looking back, it was a very transformational journey, that still continues, because we're always looking for ways to improve what we have, our current processes. Complacency is the biggest enemy of safety. And that's the principle we apply to when we manage our safety programs.
Yep.
I remember, Matt, when I started my job with safety, I was in a meeting where your dad, Bob, he said in reference to safety that he just never wanted to be compliant. He wanted to go above and beyond. And that was the standard that I used, when I developed and I continue developing the safety programs here with Bealls. We're always looking for ways to go above and beyond compliance level.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So you started talking about the distribution center and your job there, and I mentioned the safety record that you have going on there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. So I'll go a little bit back, Matt, if you will, before we get to safety record. So when I started, first thing I did is, I partnered with the University of South Florida. They have Safety Florida consultation program, and we started to work on correcting those, deficiencies that OSHA found, right? So, and we as part of the collaboration with them, they would inspect us every year to make sure, that we stay compliant, that we improve, our safety. And I remember, in the fall of 2005, like 3 years into this process, after they completed their annual inspection, the director of the program, she said, "Hey, I think you're ready. I recommend that you guys apply for SHARP status with OSHA, and we would support your application." That was a huge breakthrough for us, big endorsement by the consultation program that is funded by OSHA. So yeah, we started in 2005, in the fall of 2005, we started the application process, and it took us a year. It's very rigorous, process. They have a big checklist that you have to go through, have to undergo, wall-to-wall inspection, and like for example, the incidence rates have to be, improving in the last 3 years, have to be lower than in your industry group, etc. There's a lot of criteria that you have to meet. Finally, in the fall of 2006, we received notification from OSHA that we have been approved into SHARP, and we became the first distribution center in the state of Florida to achieve this award by OSHA.
Wow.
Basically, after 4 long, hard years of work, we became, overnight success. So, and then
there's a lot of big companies in Florida too.
Yes, yes. And and just leading to your question, to the record. So we continue, with the SHARP program. We renewed our status in 2007. They gave us 2 years, extended for 2 years, and then in 2009 we renewed for the next unprecedented 3 years. And from that point on, we kept renewing our SHARP status 3 years at a time. And then the pandemic came, and then I got a call from OSHA, and they said, "Hey, we're changing some requirements, and we're going to limit SHARP just to small businesses, small companies. So we recommend you guys apply for the VPP status." VPP stands for Voluntary Protection Program, and it's like ultimate, collaborative program with OSHA, and that recognizes, the companies that have achieved like the highest level of occupational safety and health. So, and that's where we had been in the process of applying for VPP status. So, and like you mentioned, along the way, we reached a lot of milestones. We celebrated a lot of milestones. The last milestones was last year, when we reached 2,000 days working safely without a lost time accident in our distribution center, Bealls, Florida, distribution center 810. And we had a great celebration. We took pictures, there's a picture there. We took pictures, we gave away days off with pay, big screen TVs.
That was an exciting day.
That was a very exciting day. Everybody was so happy, and everybody was very honored, that you were there, and you were sharing with us the celebration,
Yep.
And I remember, Matt, so in September of last year, when we reached that milestone, you asked me, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah.
And the secret sauce is, it's in leadership support of safety efforts and in associates engagement in safety. And I want to use this opportunity to thank you for your continuous support of our safety efforts, because that's where it starts. It starts with you at the top, and it trickles down. And we really feel that. And that's a huge part of why safety is successful in Bealls, and why is it part of our culture.
Mm-hmm. So 2,000 days last year, towards the end of last year. And then what are we up to now?
Yeah. So last year we agreed during celebration.
I don't want to jinx it.
Exactly. So you said, as long as the streak is alive, we're going to celebrate it every year. So as of last night, we are at 2,271 days.
Wow.
Worked without lost time accident. And we keep going strong. And, hopefully we'll celebrate, in the fall of this year. Yep. So it'll be 8 years already. No lost time accident in that facility.
8 years.
8 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yep, amazing. Great job. Great job. Yeah,
Thank you.
keep
It's
up that
really,
great work. I know
thank
you
you.
will, but amazing,
It's
amazing.
really a team effort,
Yeah.
and I appreciate all your support.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's like the most important thing we can do is keep our people safe. And
Yeah.
I mean, we can do that in times of natural disasters, but we can do that every day in the way that we go about our operations. And so, yeah, that's why your job is so critical. And I know that's why you're so passionate about your job. What is it that you enjoy the most or that you like the most about your job?
I think that's, I want to say that I've heard, through your podcast that there's like discussion going on who has the best job in the company,
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I will chime in, and I want to say that I think that my job is the best,
Yeah.
because it's very gratifying, because what we're doing, what we're working on is creating the safest possible environment, for our employees, for our customers, We want to see our employees, our associates go home back to their families, the same way they came into work, unhurt, safe, and they really appreciate that. And that gratitude, I think that's the best part of the job,
Yeah.
when you see happy faces, working safely.
Yeah, I know you'd say that, but I still had to ask.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's if you're good, I think maybe shifting to some of the hurricane
Yes.
safety and some of the policy and procedures that we have there. I mean, that's a big part of your job. It's an annual thing that we go through, that we teach, that we train, that we make sure that we're aligned, and then of course the process of responding to storms as they're forming, the days prior. That's a big process to manage that I think that not a lot of other retailers really need to think about and worry about as much as we do, due to our geographic location. Primarily, obviously, I guess it's about 43% of our business comes from the state of Florida, and we have, it's got to be about half of our associates are in the state of Florida. So we're talking about 8,000 people that are in the line of fire in the state of Florida. But then, of course, we operate on the coasts of many more states. So hurricanes is something that, as I watch the process unfold and take place, we've been through it so many times. You've guided us through the process so many times over the last 22 years, and it just seems like it's we've really evolved that process to be something that is now just a finely tuned, very efficient machine. That if we don't get in the way of your guidance and your leadership, I mean, it's like bang, 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 bang. Okay, now we do this. Now we do this. Now this is the communication. Now this group of stores is going to shut down. Now, it's recovery, and now it's contacting our people, and now it's, and now we're gonna reopen, and so, I guess if you could, I think that a lot of other companies could learn a lot from the way that we handle the hurricane situation and just kind of natural disasters in general, really. But for us specifically, hurricanes. If you could talk through kind of that process from where it starts. And actually, continue on all the way from where it starts to the hurricane approaching, to the hurricane impacting, to the hurricane leaving. Can you talk through for the audience what that looks like?
Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree with you, Matt. I think we as a team, we have mastered this process, and we continue to improve it every year based on our new experiences. We live in Florida, like you said, we know how the hurricane season evolves, we know also that nobody can predict, the hurricane, so it just doesn't happen. There's never been, any preseason hurricane prediction accuracy other than by luck. So, but what we do know, like you mentioned, once the disturbance forms in the Atlantic, we really zero in, and zoom in on it and focus on it, and we follow it and we get ready as it develops into a storm and then a potential hurricane. I think it's all started back in 2004. That was the season when we had like 4 major hurricanes. It was Charlie, Francis, Ivan, and Jenny. So those were all 4 major hurricanes, category 3, 4, and they all made landfall in Florida in a short, like 6 weeks period. So we really had to regroup. We had to change the way we approach the preparation. So our focus from that point on is on preparation and communication. So every year before the end of the hurricane season, we revise, first of all, our hurricane preparedness and response plan. We update with the new information, with new learnings, lessons that we learned from previous season, and we hold our company-wide hurricane preparedness meeting. So we used to hold those meetings at ERB in the auditorium. Then we moved to the Manatee County Emergency Operations Center, which is across from 817 DC. And then during pandemic, we started to hold those meetings virtually, and we dramatically, increased the outreach. So many more members of different cross-functional teams, participate in that.
150 people on those calls.
Right. Last year we included like district managers. This year we're planning on add store managers. From the stores that might be impacted by the hurricane.
Great.
Yeah, and what we do is, during those meetings is we go through the plan and through all the steps that included in the plan, through all the checklist documents, and basically this is a training session for everyone to know what is our process. What is it that we do when the hurricane starts, when we start spotting, a storm, etc. Go through all the steps, and the idea there is so that everyone is familiar with the plan and everyone basically knows, what to do with the plan. Matt, and I also would like to thank you for your leadership in, making changes, to our hurricane preparedness and response plan. One of the biggest changes we made was during the Hurricane Ian, actually in the days leading to the Hurricane Ian. And what happened was, historically, for whatever reason, we thought it's appropriate, to keep our stores and our distribution center, even if they within the corner of uncertainty, keep them open as long as we could. Mm-hmm. So in the day before Ian made landfall, we had our, scheduled normal, hurricane preparedness call, and our distribution center was already inside the cone of uncertainty. And the first thing you did once you found it out, the distribution center was open. We had associates there, so you send everybody home in the morning. And from that point on, you made it very clear to us that from that point on, you want to introduce a new rule, which we're sticking to ever since. And the rule was that if a store or a distribution center within the cone of uncertainty, we need to close it within 48 hours from expected impact, so that everyone has a time to evacuate, and prepare for the storm if they have to. So, and the impact of that was tremendous. We introduced that rule during our next storm after Ian. That was Storm Nicole in November of 2022. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of, grateful associates, And also, I want to thank you. We also started to use, based on your recommendation, the Tropical Tidbits website, mm-hmm. and using the GFS forecasting modeling that pretty accurate, in predicting potential path of the storm and also even the intensity of the storm. In the last 2 years, we had multiple opportunities, to test the GFS forecasting model.
Right.
And we found that it was like, the most accurate of all the models that we use.
For sure. Yeah.
That was really good.
Good. Yeah. I have to thank a friend of mine for introducing me to that model. It seems to be much more accurate and but we need to combine it with the National Hurricane Center model, obviously. And there's things that we can take from both as we do. But that was a good thing to introduce that.
Definitely.
In terms of people having time to, it's not just evacuation. Evacuation is part of it, but it's also just preparing their homes and, mm-hmm. and making sure that they're connected with their families and having time to secure their structures and make sure that things are put away. And, all of those things you can't do if you have 6 hours to prepare. Your mind is in survival mode. You're freaking out. You need some time to have some space to be able to take care of your family and your home situation. So that seemed like an obvious change. And, it's, I think 48 hours, 36 to 48 hours is kind of where we are, as opposed to, let's stay open as long as possible. So it's definitely a more people friendly approach. And there was a lot of good feedback that was very much appreciated. And, up until then, it wasn't as if it was complained about. Nobody was saying, well, we should be at home. That never reached the top, but it just seems seems like such a, I mean, come on. And I'm glad that was as well received as it was. I remember getting, fist bumps from people in the DC, saying,
Oh yeah.
I heard you sent everybody home. It's like, so yeah, that was really, really cool. Just the right thing to do. So anyway, yeah, so we have those plans, and we've got the calls. We're up to the calls, I guess, with 150 people on them. And where do we go from there?
Well, one thing I want to mention, Matt, what you just said, people friendly, and our entire plan, is focused on people, right? It's all about people. And you make it even more about people. I want to say that part of our plan is we have RM Bealls Senior Foundation created the Associates Relief Fund just to help support the Bealls Associates who had suffered losses following natural disasters. And we include that information in our hurricane preparedness and response plan. And we activate the fund as soon as a hurricane is federally declared, the disaster event. And we have all information in our hurricane preparedness and response plan on how to apply for that foundation. We have a QR codes, basically all you have to do is just scan the QR code, and it takes you directly to the application. And there you have it, you can choose a language that you're more comfortable with. We have English, Spanish, and Creole version. And you fill out that application, electronically, and it goes directly to our team. And Crystal, your wife, is heading that team, and they just doing absolutely a great job in, prioritizing that task. They administering that fund. They really streamlined. All information is streamlined. The decisions made quickly so that the associates receive those needed funds, as quick as possible.
Right.
I want to share my experience. After Hurricane Ian, I remember about a month after landfall. You took the executive team out to the stores to visit the stores and to meet with the associates. And that day, I think we visited 10 stores, about 10 stores. And in every store we went to, we had associates coming up to you and to Crystal and thanking you for all the support and the funds that they received. Because at the time, they were telling us, most of them were telling us that, they haven't heard from their property insurance yet.
Right.
They haven't heard anything from FEMA yet.
Right.
And the only funds they received that helped them, to get started, get their lives and get back on the ground were money from, our relief fund. So they were very thankful for that.
Yeah, the most difficult time of their lives, and they're not getting anything from FEMA, from the places that they're supposed to be getting money from. Yeah, it's a broken system for sure. So yeah, I do agree that the foundation reacted very quickly under, really Crystal did an amazing job of that. And we did, dramatically increase the amount that we were able to give to people to help out in a huge time of need. So that was exciting.
That was very exciting.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
And that's what makes, our company, Bealls, so strong and resilient. That's what makes people, want to work for Bealls and build their careers there, because in times like this, in challenging times, we all come together, we help each other, we support each other. Matt, I also have another, episode that I remember fondly, that connected to Hurricane Ian, post-Hurricane Ian response that also has to do with people, I remember it was very devastating hurricane, the damages, calculated damages, they, depending on what time frame you look at, they really range anywhere from $112 billion to $120 billion. So that was like the costliest hurricane in the state of Florida and the third in the history, of the United States. So, and obviously, we had stores that were impacted, communities were impacted. I remember, right after hurricane, I was traveling to the areas impacted by hurricane, and it was like so depressing, drive through those areas and be, looking through, destroyed houses, and businesses. And I remember a meeting, that you held with the executive team. And in the middle of that, we also, as a company, obviously, we have stores impacted. But you guys, all you were talking about, how we can get the communities back up and running, how we can help the communities. And, we were discussing the I remember we went to shelters, we went to trailer parks, handing out gift cards. You set some, like 50% discounts for our stores, so the associates community can go there and get the essentials. That was great. That was very uplifting. That was very inspirational. So again, it's it's all about people.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah, I appreciate that, George. And it was an amazing response, and it was all about the people that were impacted and getting them back up on their feet and helping the communities in any way that we could. And that was a very, very difficult time for the state of Florida and for us and for our associates. And I think there were how many people applied for grants from that? Was it close to 1,000?
close to 1,000,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was like,
Yeah, and we were able to help basically everybody and get back on their feet. And the stores were closed for over a year, and of course the communities are still recovering. It's just absolutely devastating, and now we're heading into another hurricane season. So knock on wood, let's hope we get a. Everybody is predicting a difficult season this year, which of course probably means it won't be very difficult because usually those those predictions, as you mentioned earlier, can be they're just predictions. But yeah, so back to the process a little bit. So we I guess you were kind of outlining the process from a start to finish standpoint. And if you could get a little bit deeper into that component of it. So we jump on these calls. There's 150 people, give or take, on these calls, sometimes 200 people on these calls. And now for future years, we're talking about getting the store managers that could potentially be impacted onto the calls as well. So that'll dramatically increase that. But it's all about communication, and it's all about staying in touch. And we get updates from all the various business leaders, from loss prevention to store operations to everybody that's involved in the situation is going and giving an update on what's going to happen. And of course, the meetings start with you, and they start with a map of wherever the area that's going to be impacted is, and the cone, and where the stores are located, and how we're planning on and when we're planning on closing the stores based upon the impact, the projected impact. And as the cone gets closer, the storm gets closer, we start to narrow that down and get a more finite point on it. And hopefully by that time everyone is essentially evacuated or home, or we always say hunkered down. It's such a silly phrase, but that's the one that we use for hurricanes. Hunker down and eat some snacks. That's that's how Floridians react. But if you could, and then kind of what happens from that standpoint, from where we are then at those meetings and beyond.
Matt, yes, you outlined the essential process that we have in place, and we do have a script. We don't just go and say, "Hey, are you ready?" No, we go specifically area by area across the company. That's what makes it so unique. My job, because I interact basically with every area of the company, every business unit of the company, every stakeholder in the company. So, and during those calls, that's where you see that interaction. So we have basically scripted meeting, where everyone knows, what they have to report to. They have their specific checklist for the particular area that we go through, make sure that everyone is prepared. And depending on the timeline, how close we get to the event, we take certain actions, and we continue with the calls, it starts with once a day, then it goes into twice a day, and then sometimes we have 3 times a day, like during Ian. And communication, as I said, at the very beginning, the preparation and communication, that's our key, for success. And that, stay in touch and let everyone know what's going on. Yeah. Because that's very important. So everyone knows that the situation is under control, that we involved, we engaged, and we care about everyone. And And that's the key.
Okay, well, excellent, George. This has been really, really, I think, enlightening from a safety standpoint and certainly preparation standpoint for the hurricanes, which is, of course, a major component of your job. One of the other things that you wanted to touch on were the values, and I know that you've mentioned to me that they've made a big impact on you, and so I would open it up to you to, ask a question or make any comment that you want. I wasn't sure which direction you wanted to go with the values.
Well, I started with a comment, Matt. I want to say that, first of all, I love the values. They're not mandatory, You're
Right.
not imposing them on everyone. We're not preaching them. We're not using them to judge.
Right.
They just, benefit culturally for us, They are really designed for us to explore the ways to become, the best version, awareness version of ourselves. That's more about the inward look,
Right.
inward journey.
Yep.
And like you mentioned in one of your podcasts, it doesn't have a finish line. It's like
Right.
ongoing journey, of exploration. And I want to mention, I think, authenticity is the deepest of all the values. And by understanding it, you can get in that state of acceptance and accountability, for yourself, for the others, and authenticity helps me understand diversity that comes in so many different forms. We just label people by bucketing them into generations, nationalities, races, anything else, and by doing that we basically limiting our own ability to understand the true deep nature of person, because we just bucketed them into a group, and really being authentic, it's means being able to be in that state of acceptance, acceptance of reality, and understand that we're all different, and we all have different understanding of nature of the reality. So, and I've read all books that you recommend, and
Great.
And that's where it really comes from, that understanding. I really appreciate that. I gotta be honest, I learned a lot, but also struggle, understanding, like, let's say, Eckhart Tolle's book.
Sure. Yeah.
The Power of Now, I read it a few times, and then I listened to it a few times,
Uh-huh.
so, and but it's a great concept, and
Yeah.
and it really helps, in my own, journey of my own discovery. I think, it helps me become, better person,
Yeah.
and first of all and foremost,
Yeah.
and by being a better person, can be better, husband, father, leader at work, etc. So,
Fantastic.
but I do have a question, Matt.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Yeah.
like, again, going through the books, that you recommend, and I read them all 5 that you recommended. So again, when I was reading The Power of Now, I was like scratching my head. I'm like, how did Matt come up with this book? So how do you find these books?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So, I mean, so the first book that we had on our first retreat, so it was a business book, and it was called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And so what we learned in that book was that the ego is a great saboteur of businesses and relationships. And so I guess, ever since I was a kid, people are like, are you going to work at the company? Are you going to work at the company? Well, you better not screw it up. You better not, So I've always had that in my head as a kid. And so I put pressure on myself. Pressure comes from within. Stress comes from within, as it relates to the survival of the company, and not just, so that's always been deep in my mind, and I've begun to sort of let go of that, and to realize that it's not about, well, I won't get into all that, but I guess I would say that the survival and the prosperity of the company have always been deeply important to me. And so when I hear from Jim Collins and Good to Great, who relentlessly studied 22 companies, that one of the major ways, if not the major way, that companies fail is because of the ego, and because of toxicity, and because of culture. Well, that makes a big impact on me, and I want to learn more, and I want to understand more. And like, well, what's the ego? I thought that I knew. I thought that
Oh,
I knew what it was, but I really didn't. I mean, I had no idea until I read more about it. And so the way that I dug into it was really from the Eckhart Tolle books,
okay.
and really from I think A New Earth really dove very, very deeply
Hmm.
into the content and the structure of the ego and what it was in a way that is. I'd say difficult to grasp the first time or the second time that you read that book. I had to listen to it, and I had to listen to it a bunch of times in order to really start to understand what he
Hmm.
was talking about. But for me, his two books, The Power of Now, which is all about being present in the present moment, and A New Earth, which is really dives very deep into the nature of reality and sort of the human condition. Those were two of the most powerful, if not, I wouldn't say two of the most powerful. I would say that those are the two most powerful books that have ever been written, as far as I'm concerned. And I
Mm.
haven't read every book that's ever been written, but I can't imagine that there would ever be a more game-changing, more life-changing book than either of those two. And it's all about self-awareness, and it's all
Yeah.
about emotional intelligence and
Hmm.
understanding, as you were talking about before, authenticity and
Yeah.
labeling and judging and the ego and how it operates and how it works. And so for me, that trying to deeply understand that and be able to see it within myself. It's not about judging other people. It's not about, you mentioned that the values are not about an outward look. The values are about an inward look. And that's why there's no pressure. That's why
Hmm.
there's no expectation from other people or from anyone, myself included, on these things. It's all about an inward look and an inward
Yeah.
journey, and we can all become, again, you said it, the best version of ourselves that we can be by having self-awareness and by understanding the
Hmm.
nature of ego, of false self, of mind, and really how that can sabotage relationships
Yeah.
and create toxicity and negativity unconsciously without us knowing that we're doing it. We're creating negativity and toxicity in many
Yeah.
cases when our unobserved mind is in charge. And so for me, yeah, that was I found that book, I think, sort of by chance. Honestly, my wife was reading it,
Mm.
and I think she subliminally wanted me to read it, and so she was playing it on speakers, and
Uh,
there was a part, she just this one time, and I walked into the room, and it was playing on this part about Albert Einstein and talking about Albert Einstein. It was one of the
okay.
chapters of the book, and she knew that by me hearing this, that I would be intrigued and want to learn more by listening to this very deep philosophical conversation about Albert Einstein. She knew that I would be hooked. And so, of course I read it, and it just happened to be all about ego and all about, and
Mm.
so I tied that into the book from Jim Collins. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is amazing.
Mm.
What else has this guy written? And so I think I've listened to it over the last couple of years, probably 8 times. I mean, it just, you learn something new
Yeah.
every time you listen to it. In
Yep.
every chapter, there's something that you can either learn or understand better or be reminded of. And so, and then, on to The Power of Now, and that was just a very helpful book from a how to live, the art of living, essentially.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how I came across those. And then Michael Singer was, I have to thank Crystal. I have to thank my wife for, for pretty much most everything, I guess I would say. I mean, she's been an incredible impact
Awesome.
on me and on my life. And
That's great.
yeah. So, yeah. And then Michael Singer actually is a local author out of Alachua, so local to Florida, out of Alachua, and
Okay.
and I found him through the kind of the Tolle connection, I guess, just
Okay.
randomly. They kind of talk about, they have a similar view of the nature of reality. I think I would call them both spiritual teachers, or yeah, I think that's probably a good word for them. And And so, reading the first part of Untethered Soul, the first 3 chapters of Untethered Soul, was equally as life-changing, because he dives very deep into the voice in the head, and understanding that we are not the voice in the head, and that we are the observers of the voice in the head. If we mistake ourselves for the voice in the head, then of course that's ego. The voice in the head is the ego, essentially, is what he's preaching. So it tied, not preaching, but teaching. And it tied in very, very logically. And it was another book that was extraordinarily helpful for myself and for our senior team. And so what I do on our retreats once a year is it's a journey inward. And so we just had a retreat offsite yesterday and the day before, actually, our annual retreat, which was a full business meeting. We're in there all day for 2 straight days, taking very little breaks, just digging into our strategy, and that's something that we've always done. But what I've added for our senior team is an off-site meeting where it's a self-awareness, emotional intelligence look. And we generally use a book or 2 books even to guide that annual retreat. And so we have deep, deep discussions about our interpretations of what we've read and what we've learned, and how it's helped us in life. So in this year's retreat, which happens in about 2 or 3 weeks, actually, 2.5 weeks, we're going to be diving into 2 new books. And those books are written by a man who actually passed away about 2 years ago. I think he was 97 years old. Thich Nhat Hanh is the author, and another brilliant and insightful human being. And he wrote 2 books. He's written a lot of books, but the 2 that we're reading for retreat are Fear and Happiness. And so they are, and we're going to be taking a deep dive into the emotions on this trip. And so from a self-awareness standpoint, understanding our emotions is critical. And so we're going to be attempting to distinguish between true emotions and false emotions. What emotions are made from our mind, from the ego, and anger, jealousy, greed, possessiveness. What are those false emotions versus what are the true emotions? Peacefulness, wonder, playfulness, love, compassion, and then attempting to understand, and this may be where the power of now comes in, of the false emotions. Many of them are backward-looking emotions, and so it's when the mind takes you to the past, and it's always the mind that creates a story, and then the story, which is a group of thoughts. So the mind creates a thought, and then the thought turns into a string of thoughts, and then the string of thoughts turns into a story. And typically in every story, there's a victim, and there's there's someone to blame, and so when the mind takes us into the past, we can get resentment. We can create regret, we can create sadness, we can create depression. And through accountability, we realize that it's no one else's fault, that we're not a victim, that there's no one to blame, that it's us, it's me who's creating those false emotions. It's my mind, it's my unobserved mind that's creating those false emotions. And so, when I create sadness, and if sadness goes unobserved for an extended period of time, and I continue to dwell on that and to carry it into the next day, and to wake up and to have my mind create that thought the next day, it can turn into depression over a long period of time. And so accountability is knowing that we're creating those emotions. And so the power of now is always available. It's always here. And in that moment, we have the emotions available to us, such as peace, such as compassion, such as love. And in the future, of course, when our mind takes us to a future imaginary event, it might create emotions such as fear, such as anxiety, such as stress, stress, anxiety, fear. Our minds create future imaginary events that haven't happened, and we play those out, and we often go to a worst case scenario. And so it's a thought that turns into a group of thoughts, which turns into a story, which turns into an emotion. And the mind feeds the emotion, and it feeds the original thoughts, and it builds and builds and builds. And it's something that that we're going to be, again, diving into to attempt to understand at a deeper level. And there's no right or wrong answer. There's no, what I'm sharing with you is my perspective. It's a perspective that comes from a lot of the books that we've read, and it's what I can say about it is that it's extraordinarily helpful. And true, false, however you want to. Whatever you want to say about it, it's helpful. I mean, it allows you to live in a state of peace and a state of non-judgment. And so, but life always does give you those opportunities, through your conditioning, through your past, through the mind can creep right in without even knowing it. And it's just kind of a matter of, well, how quickly can I be the observer? How quickly can I return to presence? How quickly can I, see the mind as it attempts to take me through the patterns that are that are there because they're stored in my subconscious, they're stored in my memory, and to be the observer of the mind as it drags us through all of that, that negativity and baggage and drama that we carry and create and that manifests through us. That's kind of the practice, to be able to observe that as it arises, and then of course not spread it through toxicity and negativity with other people. And that's big in a culture. That's big in a business. If we can have accountability and recognize that we're the ones that are creating that there's no one else to blame. That these are stories that we're creating in our mind, and it's resistance. It's resistance to life. It's resistance to the present moment. That is negativity. I mean, resistance and negativity are synonymous, and resistance to life, resistance to now, is what creates that. And so that's where that value of acceptance comes in. And they are very much all tied together, and they do make a lot of sense once you're able to step back and kind of attempt to dive into them and understand them. And it sounds like, based on your opening comments on this topic, that you've really dug in and that you really understand them at a deep level.
Really enjoyed, and it totally makes sense. Thank you for taking time and explaining. It totally makes sense, the connection between Jim Collins, Good to Great, to Eckhart Tolle. Now I can definitely see that, and even onto Michael Singer. So and you already answered my next question. So what's unrecommended list? So it's fear and happiness.
Fear and happiness. Yeah, that's what we're going with, because the theme of the retreat is emotions. And so understanding those, and kind of where those come from. So fear and happiness. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt, for a detailed answer.
Yeah, for sure. And again, we'll provide those to all associates. So anybody who's interested in either the Audible version or the paperback version, we're going to provide those to anybody who wants them. It's not forced upon anybody, but people should just know that offer is out there. If you're an employee of Bealls, then you have that. We're gonna provide that for you.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, well, good. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the values before we wrap it up?
Well, that's really, I wanted to talk about authenticity and diversity. I think we covered that. So
love it. Yeah, great. Thank you for recommending that we talk about that, and for.
Well, because it's really, like you said, I really dug into it, really want to understand it. I really see the value. It really helps me as a person, and that's how I use it. I don't apply that to anyone. I don't look through the lens of values, at anyone. So I just look at myself. It's about self-awareness, self-growth, and understanding the nature of the reality.
Love it. Yeah. Excellent. Well, George, this has been amazing, man. It's really been, I think, a great conversation. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do for the company in helping us stay safe and creating an incredible culture through the connections that you have every day with the people that you interact with. I mean, you've always been such a positive, component of our company, a positive piece of our culture. It's people like you that create the Bealls culture. And so I'm just very honored to have you here and to talk to you and to show who's ever listening, whether it's Bealls associates, Bealls employees, or who's ever listening, some of the incredible people that we have within the company. That's kind of what this podcast is all about. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Yep. Excellent. All right.
Awesome.
That's a wrap. Good. Great job, George.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, for sure.
That was really good.